April 14th, 1865. Ford's Theater. A shot rings out, but this time it misses. What if Abraham Lincoln had survived the assassination attempt by John Wilkes Booth? Would Reconstruction have taken a different path? Would racial equality have advanced more quickly? Would the wounds of the Civil War have healed sooner, or never at all? Today we explore an alternate reality where one man's survival reshapes the course of American history. And with that, my friends, welcome to another episode of
What if Gore got elected instead of George Walker Bush? How were we protected from the coronavirus? What about 9/11? Who founded the KKK? Why Hayes instead of Tilden? Did all of them get away? You gotta ask history. You wanna ask history. We have to ask history. Guys, let us ask history. You gotta ask history. You wanna ask history. We have to ask history. Guys, let us ask history.
the night that changed, or didn't? In our timeline, John Wilkes Booth fatally shot President Lincoln in the back of the head. But in this alternate reality, something shifts. Perhaps Booth fumbles his aim in the dark due to a sudden movement by Lincoln, a misfire, or even a last-minute intervention by Major Henry Rathbone, who was also in the box. The shot misses its mark, hitting Lincoln in the shoulder or grazing him. He survives. Booth, shocked by the failed attempt and now struggling with an agitated crowd, is captured rather than killed days later. He becomes the face of Confederate fanaticism, and his trial becomes one of the most watched and politically charged events in American history. National reaction, relief, rage, and retribution. The North. Overwhelming relief sweeps across Union states. Lincoln's survival is seen as a divine sign of providence, cementing his image as a chosen leader. His political capital skyrockets. The South. Confederate sympathizers are shaken. Booth's capture and confession expose deeper networks of Southern resistance. Lincoln's critics become more cautious, fearing association with traitors. Vice President Andrew Johnson. Johnson, a Southern Unionist, publicly praises Lincoln, but privately resents being sidelined. His accidental presidency never happens in this timeline. The Cabinet. With Lincoln alive, his moderate cabinet stays intact. Radical Republicans remain vocal, but Lincoln uses his newfound authority to push a more unifying but still firm Reconstruction agenda. Lincoln's final years in office. Reconstruction reimagined. Lincoln had already envisioned a charity for all approach to Reconstruction. He wanted to reunite the nation quickly, with minimal retribution, but also insisted on freedom and dignity for freed slaves. With his survival, the radical Republicans, who favored harsher punishment for the South and full citizenship rights for freedmen, are kept in check. Lincoln's approach is pragmatic. He enforces loyalty oaths, supports the Freedmen's Bureau, and pushes for the Civil Rights Act of 1866. But he delivers these reforms through negotiation rather than imposition. The Freedmen's Bureau and Civil Rights Act. These both move forward, likely still in 1866, but with stronger support from the executive branch. Lincoln's political skills and popularity mean fewer veto fights. Unlike Johnson, he doesn't block or even delay civil rights legislation. He refines it. The 14th Amendment. This still happens, likely around the same time, 1868, but with Lincoln's vocal support. He works to frame it not just as a Republican policy, but as a step toward national healing and the unfinished work of the Union cause. Would radical Reconstruction still happen? Not in the same way. Without Johnson's obstructionism, radical Republicans don't feel the need to seize control of Reconstruction entirely. Lincoln tempers their influence, and while military districts might still be created in the South, as in the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, they are still implemented with more federal oversight and moral authority. The South is still resistant, and white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan do emerge. But Lincoln's Justice Department acts earlier and more decisively, recognizing the threat. Anti-Klan enforcement legislation may be passed sooner and enforced more vigorously, especially with Lincoln rallying public opinion against domestic terrorism. Alaska and the big picture. Would the Alaska Purchase of 1867 still happen? Yes. Secretary of State William Seward, the deal's architect, remains in office. Lincoln trusts him. While the purchase may still be ridiculed as Seward's folly, Lincoln's political cover lends it legitimacy. He supports it as a symbol of America's growing international presence. The election of 1868. Would Lincoln run for a third term? Possibly not. Lincoln had expressed doubts about continuing in politics, and by 1868 he may have chosen to step down, citing fatigue, health, or a belief in democratic rotation of power. Ulysses S. Grant likely still becomes the Republican nominee, but with a much stronger foundation laid by Lincoln. Grant's presidency is less about Reconstruction recovery and more about building on Lincoln's groundwork. Alternatively, Lincoln may have endorsed a different successor, a moderate Republican like Schuyler Colfax or Salmon P. Chase, changing the trajectory of the GOP entirely. A different legacy. In this timeline, Lincoln is remembered not just as the great emancipator, but as the president who rebuilt America. Without martyrdom, he becomes a political elder statesman, perhaps akin to Washington. A figure revered not for how he died, but for how he governed. His speeches, writings, and post-presidency reflections become pillars of American civic education. He may even write memoirs, shape Reconstruction-era policies from behind the scenes, and live to see the country truly reunify before his death. Conclusion. Abraham Lincoln surviving the assassination would have drastically reshaped Reconstruction, civil rights, and the pace of national healing. Some tragedies, racism, violence, inequality, would still persist, but the federal government might have acted sooner, with more unity and under a leader capable of bridging divides rather than deepening them. It's a vision of America that almost was, one shot away from reality. What do you think? Write your opinion and version of the story in the comments below. Please be polite and kind. If you wanna know what would have happened if Kennedy survived the assassination, click on the video on the left. Thanks for watching.